Hi, this is Kep Kepner, CPA here in Dallas. I've been talking about a person that called me saying they wanted to start in business, and as I continued to ask them questions, they really didn't have the answers. One of the things their answers told me is that they didn't know how to plan. They didn't know how to bring all the elements of a successful business together so that they had the product and the wherewithal to deliver it. I would ask, how are you going to communicate with your customers? And who is your customer? If your customer is just the ordinary Joe out there, well, you better have a really fun, engaging app to get them to be at all interested. If, on the other hand, you have a very pragmatic business answer to a business problem, then that's probably what you need to portray to your customer. So you need to understand your customer, and many people who start into business don't really know their customer. I can tell you, I've heard many times, well, it's $100 million market, and if I get 1/100th of it, that's $1 million. That's a lousy way to plan and a really poor way to define your business. I would ask them, well, how do you go about managing your change? If you're starting a business, how do you manage change? How do you tell your wife that it's okay for her to go out and work while you stay in the back bedroom working on your grand idea? Now, you may think that's really funny, but I can tell you I've lived that life, and it's not fun because other people have to understand your motivation and why you are building your business the way you are. And if you can't articulate that to somebody, then you aren't going to be able to sell your product to your customer. You're not going to be able to tell your employees or workers what they need to produce for what dollar that you're going to pay them. So it's really about that kind of management of change in your own life and that of your business. You have to know how to measure what you're doing. Are you really successful if you have $1 million in sales? Well, maybe you are if you have $300,000 in profit, but maybe you're a flop if you've got a $100,000 loss on $1 million in sales. And you think, well, that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to sell $1 million and I'm going to make a profit. After all, I'm a corporate employee and I know how to work and I'll do that work. And so maybe you do and maybe you will, but you have to know what it means to be successful, and you have to measure the things that get you there. Actually, for many companies, the measurement of sales is not at all an indication of whether they're successful. For many companies, it's profitable sales, and it's whether they are capturing a group of customers that they can sell more to, and maybe it's about building a staff that can produce not only product one but the other products. It's a matter of more than just whether you sold $1 million worth of product. And you have to understand your own objectives and goals to determine whether or not you're successful. My goal is I just never want to work for anybody again. Gee, that sounds really good until you figure that if you got 100 customers, you got 100 bosses. And if you've got 15 vendors, you've got 15 more bosses. And if you've got a banker, you've got another boss. You've got a lot of bosses instead of just the one boss you got in your corporate job. So don't think you're not going to work for somebody. I'm just going to work for myself. The reality is you're working for a lot of people. And if you don't ask yourself these hard questions, then you're going to start out, you're going to squander some of your resources, you're not going to get where you want to be in the time frame you want to be, and you're not going to know when you get there because you haven't measured it and you haven't defined what's successful. If you need help with that, we can give you a hand. Thanks.